All right. Good morning. Welcome in. The Out of Bounds Show is brought to you by Soundcom. Sound and Communications. SoundcomAV.com. And they can put your AV system, audiovisual equipment, design and install, in your church, business, or sports facility. SoundcomAV.com. Sound and Communications. We welcome in Mike Detillier on the Modelo guest line, WWL Radio TV New Orleans. Mike, before I get to the Saints, I want to start with LSU. A little bit of a wild game there in Death Valley on Saturday night. And Bo Nix made some crazy plays and so on. What was your one big takeaway from the Auburn-LSU game this past weekend?
No, LSU had their game in hand and let it slip away. They didn't put them all, just didn't put it away. That lack of a running game is a big part of that. That's a football game at the end of the season. You're going to look back and say, how the hell we lost this? Because, you had the game in hand, and you let it slip away. Bo Nix really played one heck of a game, and I give him full credit that he was under duress. And after what happened the week before, man, that's a lot of mental toughness for him to play that sort of game, because he knew this was sort of the last lifeline for him with the coach before he would hand it off to TJ. And he made a couple of plays that you just shook your head about, because LSU had him cornered, and he came out of there running around and made a couple of really huge throws. So, for LSU fans, it's frustration that, again, this football team is having difficulties getting the plays in on time, running the football, and at the end of the game, their defense is gassed. They're great with the big plays, but again, you live by that, you die by that. And Ed now understands the seat has gotten much hotter for him.
Wow. And you go to Kentucky, Mike, this weekend, and I know you and I throughout most of our life, Kentucky hadn't been any good in football, but Mark Stoops, slowly but surely, has made them even more than respectable, but definitely he's upgraded. They're not where they want to be skill position-wise, but line of scrimmage-wise, goodness. And on the defensive side of the football, they're nasty. So, this game is in Lexington. Now, they're coming off the high beating Florida. They're going to have to get refocused. We see week to week you get a different deal from 18 to 22-year-olds. But don't you this is a big game for Orgeron and LSU, don't you think, Mike?
You better believe it. Next 2 weeks are huge for him. In playing Kentucky and playing Florida. Kentucky's a football team that, when we looked at the schedule at the beginning of the year, I thought they'd have difficulties with. But, you write about the roller coaster, because they had some weird games losing to Florida. Really weird. And end up winning that football game. And you write about, teenagers, young 20-year-olds, there is an emotional roller coaster. And sometimes you get a little bit full of yourself. And so for us, they got to win this football game. They have to win it. And so on the road against a tough football team that's not dynamic offensively, but they're strong in the trenches. Kentucky ain't giving up much in the running game, but LSU can't run it to begin with. So, they just nothing is seemingly connecting here for LSU. And despite in spurts on both sides of the ball, it's not been a complete game all season long.
Mike,
does it happen? Who knows?
Right.
But Ed and I had this conversation back in the summer. He gave a speech to mostly high school coaches, but there were college coaches there too. of that, you guys are going to find out, and quickly. You judge not from year to year, but game to game. And you playing for your life every game
True.
in the SEC.
This day and age.
And so, he kind of foresaw this, that, hey, I get it. And, here's the crazy thing, that when you look back at kind of a perception reality issue and how, things are just sort of weird, at the same time, Ed Orgeron and Nick Saban have the same record at LSU. They're 48 wins, 16 losses.
Yeah. Well, that
Think
15
about
and
that.
0, that 15 and 0 season. Yeah.
And Nick won a national championship too. And so at the same moment in time, it's 48 and 16, and yet the look at this program is totally different. That with Nick, the trajectory was up, and with Ed, the trajectory is down.
Yeah, I know he's your good friend. I don't think he's going to make it, Mike. But I look at these next 3 games, and I think you're right. Mike Detillier, WWL Radio TV New Orleans, on the Modelo guest line. He's an LSU Saints insider, among other things. At Kentucky, Florida at home. I know they didn't look good last weekend, but still. And at Ole Miss. I mean, Mike, they could go 0-3 or 1-2 during that stretch, go and get to the bye week. And at that point, things could be getting real hot and maybe in somewhat panic mode down in Baton Rouge. Your thoughts?
Well, with Woodward running it, I don't think you're going to see that panic stuff. It might be panic from fans and panic from people media-wise, but, Scott's going to let this kind of roll out. And I've heard this many times that, well, Scott didn't hire him. And that's true. He didn't hire him, but he did give him the big contract after the national championship year. So his fingerprints on that too. But, the one thing in knowing with Scott, and I think even for the baseball coach search, where there were some people in athletic departments and maybe former players, money people, that sort of tried to do a little coup. They wanted their own guy, okay? And they thought Scott wasn't working fast enough and thought maybe he had made a bad decision with, the Oregon State coach and sort of going up to him to see about coming back and coach again. That Scott sort of put the clamp on that. Now, that isn't reported, and, certain reporters, well, I got great insights. Their insights are marginal. Scott Woodward runs this athletic department, and when he found out about it, he slammed the window on that. And so this is going to be Scott's call, and I would be surprised if Scott made a change mid-season or during the year, but I think that it's got to get to 8 wins some kind of way for him to survive. And that's going to be really difficult.
Yikes.
Really difficult. Because I think anything less, you're going to have a major uprise here from people who donate, from fans, that sort of thing. So, it is what it is, and he understands it more than anybody. He grew up here, okay? He knows the pressures that happen to be a head coach at LSU. And Pete Jenkins told me this, I think probably 2 days after the national championship game. He said, Ed better soak it in because this is the best it'll be.
Yeah.
He said, I'm just telling you. He said, now he put that bar where at 9 wins, people are going to say it's, that's not a successful season. 8 wins, that's not a successful season. And so he said, I'm just telling you, you better soak it in because unless you fix it on winning, 10, 11, 12 games every year, and he said there's only one guy that has walked out of doing that, and that's Saban. It's going to be real difficult. And Pete kind of looked into the future in that crystal ball, and he is absolutely 100% right. And so the people that are clamoring for Ed, and I get it, it's frustration, but the same fans and talk show people, who were they for a few years back? Tom Herman? Where's Tom today?
Right.
Or where's Jimbo Fisher, their boy? And listen, and I'm pals with Jimbo. What's happened with him? You know, are A&M fans thrilled
No.
with Jimbo today? So it goes to show you both the pressures, and it is a what have you done for me today business. I don't want to hear about what happened last year. The A&M had one of the greatest seasons in football last year, and you wouldn't know it if you talk to Aggie fans today. Man, they don't want to hear about that. You know, their deal is, well, what happened? What's going on this year? With the potential that this team could lose 2 or 3 more games and be almost in the same shape LSU's in.
Look, I'm with you. LSU and A&M are in a bad spot. 2 elite recruiters that are not playing like they have.
It done.
Yeah. Mike Detillier.
And what's happening in Florida with Dan Mullen? You don't think the heat's on him?
I do. I will say this. Out of those 3, I have more confidence in Dan getting it right and getting back on track than I do for Jimbo or Orgeron. Could be wrong, but you're right. I mean, you can't go to when you're the Florida coach, you can't go to Kentucky and lose. It's just doesn't matter if Stoops has a nice team or one of his better teams or not. You can't do that. Out of Mike Detillier, WWL Radio TV New Orleans, Mike joins us on the Modelo guest line. The show is brought to you by Sound and Communication, soundcomav.com. Mike, who do you like better right now at this point in the season as the better team, Bama or Georgia?
I like Alabama because of the quarterbacking situation.
I like it.
I just think that with Bryce, you know, he kind of tilts the field. With Georgia, tell me who's going to be the quarterback. If JT can come back healthy, it's real tight, and their defense is just spectacular. And they can run the football, and they got playmakers out on the edge, but they need JT to be that complete team. So I would. That's not even a thought on that. That's easy. Alabama because of Bryce at quarterback position. He's certainly a difference maker and a guy that he makes it all roll. And does he play like a guy that's seen very little playing time? The answer is no. He looks like a seasoned vet to me, and he's done a really good job with a new set of receivers, with a rebuilt offensive line. Now, Brian Robinson was impressive this week, but, they had Najee, and he sort of was another one of those signature players for Bama. So, man, right now it's Bama.
Yeah. Who do you have take the league as a whole? So you got Bama and then Georgia. Who do you have as the third best team?
That would be difficult for a decision on that one. I thought going into the year it would be A&M, but they've not shown me any of that at this point, to be honest with you. And it's a flip of the coin between all of them. All of them are a work in progress to be the 3 team at this stage. Arkansas got a little reality check with them, and they're still a tough football team.
Sure.
But man, again, when you look across the board, they're not going to, I'm wondering how well or how they kind of bounce back. If they would bounce back, then I think they would be the 3 team. But it's sometimes teams have their own way of evolving during the year, to be honest with you.
True.
They have their own little evolvement. And I can say the same thing about Ole Miss. Well, what's going to happen there after really getting popped of, how you evolve from that? Because either you're going to get better or you're going to get worse. It's going to be one of the two with both those teams. And I can say that about A&M and LSU and Florida. It's not going to be this even keel this year for any of the rest. None of the rest. It's you're going to be going through the roller coaster. It's a really weird year in the SEC when you look at it as a whole, because it's so clear-cut between Alabama and Georgia. Boy, if you think back, there was always that third and maybe even a 3B team that was sort of lurking. Not after last week.
Yeah. Well,
you think about it, it's been a long time since, and I know they've sort of met, in the crucial game before, but there's always been a team sort of in the lurking in the woods that could have a shot at it. This year, tell me who's really going to give Alabama and Georgia a really tight football game? Unless they play bad.
Right.
Now, you never know, and turnovers are a great equalizer in this business, but you sort of saw this weekend where the line in the sand was drawn, and those maybe teams, they ain't maybe no more. And what's going to happen to them? It's a very interesting year, the way it has played out, because in years past, there's always been that 3-team or 3B team that you could say, they got a shot if they play well. But, A&M hasn't played well. LSU hasn't played well. Florida hasn't played well. Arkansas played well up until, they caught the buzzsaw. Ole Miss has played well, and then they got Alabama. Mississippi State, they caught, they gave it to A&M, really did. You look across the board, that's not a lot of that. Auburn, come on, they're a middle-of-the-road team at this stage. So there isn't that 3B team. Now, could that emerge in a couple weeks? We'll see. But right now, there's a lot more question marks about teams than the real answers.
Yeah. Mike Detillier, WWL Radio TV New Orleans, on the Modelo guest line. All right, Mike, let's go to the Saints. Not that that's any more fun than LSU, but I understand the NFL is set up to where damn near anything can happen week to week, but I'm still surprised the Giants go in the Dome and beat Sean Payton and the Saints. What did you make of the game?
I saw the same game twice. I watched LSU Auburn, and I've seen, the Saints Giants. It was like watching the same game twice. You had them, and you let it slip away. You had a big lead in the fourth quarter, and it just slipped away from you. And it was one of the poor coaching efforts by Sean Payton. And he admitted that after the game. 3 times you get inside the Giants' 50-yard line, and you come away with 0 points. And you've given Rosas, who's been as inconsistent as could be, you let him kick a 58-yard field goal, which, he misses. And then, bang, the Giants hit a big play. The Saints, it goes to show how rookies are. Paulson Adebo, he ain't never covered nobody like John Ross, that speed. Okay, so he gives up the big play, and he turns around almost disgusted with himself, not realizing Ross fumbled the ball in the end zone. Go get the ball.
I saw that, yeah.
Hey, you like, hey, This isn't high school football. Go pick it up. But the Saints got no pass rush on the Giants. That shocked me because I've watched the Giants play the first 3 games, and there was a lot of pressure on Daniel Jones.
Yeah, their O-line's been terrible for 5 years.
And they gave him a lot of time to throw the football. Saints could not get pressure on him, and he's mobile. And I think Daniel, I don't know what the talk show people in New York are doing today or yesterday, but they're not complaining about Daniel Jones. Well, they shouldn't, because, man, he was throwing darts out there. And they got some speed elements that, if used wisely, they are very good with it, because Kenny Galladay, Kadarius Toney, Ross, Ingram, and Saquon Barkley look mighty healthy to me. Now, again, I'm not going to say this often about the Giants, but they outfoxed the football team, coaching-wise, Sunday, because I have no real confidence in Jason Garrett as an offensive coordinator.
No.
But, man, I thought he called one heck of a game, because he had the Saints on their heels. They had no idea what was going on.
I think his job was on the line, Mike. Garrett.
Well, I think the same thing with Joe Judge, and you can question that part too. Now, defensively, I thought they did a decent job overall, but my goodness, I thought Garrett's play calling up against Dennis Allen was really good. And when they tried to blitz him, man, Daniel was calm in the pocket, dumped the pass off, found the open receivers. But I was shocked with the offensive line play, which had been a disaster all year long. And the Saints had really been good at getting pressure on the quarterback, and they could get 0 on Jones. He got 6 hurries, but that, no sacks. He didn't come close to getting sacked in that game. And it was a really weird game from an NFL standpoint, because once you saw the Saints jump to that lead, you were like, man, there's no way the Giants are coming back from this. This team is inventing new ways to lose. And all of a sudden, they packed it in and got the score. So you're right. You never know in this league the mentality of players. The Giants came to play Sunday. They weren't intimidated by the Saints, despite the fact they knew they were going to get an earful from the crowd.
Mike Detillier, the man, WWL Radio TV New Orleans. Thanks, Mike. Appreciate it, buddy.
Thank you, Bo.
The Out of Bounds Show is brought to you by Sound and Communications. It's also brought to you by Fleetway Market. Tailgate Catering Packages serves 4 to 6 people. Pulled pork pack, brisket or ribs pack. Must order by Thursdays. The number is 502-345-6131. The pickup is at the Gluckstadt location. Tailgate Catering Packages at Fleetway Market in Gluckstadt.